step into the Bible verse. The first plague of Egypt during the time of Moses was the turning of the Nile River into blood. The water in the Nile became undrinkable, causing great panic and desperation among the people. The fish dying and the foul smell of the river made daily life unbearable for the Egyptians. With each passing day, the suffering and chaos in Egypt escalated as the plague persisted. The first plague served as a warning of the power of God and the consequences of defying His will. As Moses continued to confront Pharaoh with God's demands, each subsequent plague grew more severe than the last. The plagues were a display of God's power and a call for Pharaoh to release the Israelites from slavery. Despite the devastation, Pharaoh's heart remained hardened, leading to more suffering for the Egyptian people. The plagues served as a testament to the power of faith and the consequences of injustice and oppression. As the plagues unfolded, Pharaoh's resistance crumbled under the weight of divine intervention. The second plague of Egypt was a fierce infestation of frogs that covered the land, multiplying rapidly and causing chaos among the people. The frogs emerged from the Nile River and invaded every corner of Egypt, from the royal palace to the humblest homes, causing widespread discomfort and fear. The Egyptians were unable to escape the incessant croaking and hopping of the frogs, their presence a constant reminder of the power of the divine punishment. They brought only destruction and discomfort, leaving the people desperate for relief. Moses, the leader of the Israelites, warned Pharaoh that unless he freed the Hebrew slaves, the plague of frogs would continue to torment the land. Despite Pharaoh's initial refusal to comply, the plague of frogs eventually came to an end after Moses prayed to God for it to cease, demonstrating the power of divine intervention. Once the frogs disappeared, Pharaoh hardened his heart once again, refusing to let the Israelites go, setting the stage for the next series of plagues to strike Egypt. And the Lord said to Moses, "Stretch out your rod and strike the dust of the land so that it may become gnats throughout all the land of Egypt." With a single motion, Moses obeyed the command, striking the dust with his rod and unleashing a swarm of gnats upon the Egyptians. The tiny insects filled the air, buzzing relentlessly and causing great discomfort to the people and animals of Egypt. The gnats were everywhere, in their houses, in their food, and even in their beds, bringing a sense of chaos and helplessness to the once powerful nation. Pharaoh's magicians were unable to replicate this plague, acknowledging the divine power behind it and further solidifying the message from the Lord. Despite this undeniable display of power, Pharaoh's heart remained hardened, refusing to free the Israelites from slavery and face the consequences of his actions. As the third plague continued to torment the land of Egypt, the stage was set for even greater trials and tribulations to come. The fourth plague that Moses brought against Egypt was the swarms of flies descending upon the land and causing chaos and destruction. The relentless buzzing of the flies filled the air, their incessant swarming driving the people of Egypt to despair. The once vibrant land of Egypt was now plagued with disease and devastation, as the flies brought with them filth and sickness wherever they went. Moses stood firm in his resolve, continuing to demand the release of the Israelites from slavery despite the escalating severity of the plagues. Pharaoh's heart remained hardened, refusing to listen to the warnings and pleas of Moses, even as the consequences of each plague grew more dire. The swarms of flies continued to torment the people of Egypt, proving that the power of God was unmatched and unstoppable. As the swarms persisted, the once mighty kingdom of Egypt began to crumble under the weight of divine punishment, showing the world the consequences of defying God's will. The fifth plague that was brought down on the Egyptians by God was the plague of livestock, where all the livestock of the Egyptians died. The plague of livestock was a devastating blow to the Egyptians, as their animals were crucial for their economy and way of life. The loss of their livestock left the Egyptians in a state of despair, as they relied on these animals for food, transportation, and labor. As the plague of livestock continued to decimate the Egyptians' herds, the Pharaoh's heart was hardened, refusing to let the Israelites go. Moses warned Pharaoh that unless he let the Israelites leave, more devastating plagues would follow. However, Pharaoh remained stubborn and defiant. Despite the warnings and the growing devastation caused by the plagues, Pharaoh's pride and arrogance blinded him to the suffering of his people and the power of the God of Israel. As the plague of livestock continued to ravage Egypt, the cries of anguish and mourning echoed throughout the land, a somber reminder of the power of God's judgment. Thank you for watching the 10 Plagues of Egypt Part 1. Stay tuned for Part 2 coming soon. This has been another adventure into the Bible verse. Thank you for your attention, and we hope you enjoyed this journey through history.